well, surely, the United States has to be up there. I was wrong. Let's talk about the whiplash that occurred from the sub 24-hour TikTok ban. Went down Saturday evening and was restored anew Sunday. I do understand that TikTok is, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, it is a major social media network. And there are many jobs that people have that are directly connected to TikTok, whether they're content creators or whether they have shops and things that they're selling. Regardless, facts are, it was a good thing for our economy as well. And while I understand the emotional response from someone who that may be either their source of income or one of their sources of income, what I can't bring myself to understand is why, because of the threat of a TikTok ban and the eventual banning, though it was under 24 hours, just making that point, why so many Americans would sign up for and be active on an app that is controlled by the Chinese government, aka the Chinese Communist Party, and why people have such good things to say about China all of a sudden, even though roughly 40% Americans identify China as our number one foreign adversary at the moment, second only to Russia. I just, maybe schools aren't teaching the way different government entities influence their societies, or they're just not requiring the same reading that they were when I was in school. I don't quite understand where the disconnect is, but signing up for Red Note is actively providing your personal information and data to the Chinese Communist government, which is a good reason, or a large portion of the reason why TikTok was banned. Obviously, not all of it. But they were concerned with the privacy and security risks that came with China having access to our information. Nowadays, you can't sign up for anything without any kind of app or services, or even setting up our TV. We had to agree to terms and conditions and to share our data information just to get it set up, just to be able to watch what we wanted to watch. So everything comes with a certain amount of everything nowadays, at least, comes apps, services, etc., comes with us giving someone, whoever it is, whether it's the United States or China or whoever is running and controlling whatever application, we're giving them permission to have access to a lot of personal information. And that's inevitable. That's unavoidable nowadays in present day USA. But it's mind-blowing to me that, again, so many Americans were so willing to just provide that information to our number one foreign adversary. And I don't think we quite understand the repercussions to that. Every piece of data that anyone has can be used against another person, whether it's an individual or an entire country. That all adds up. So we're essentially feeding the Chinese government what they can use against us. Doesn't make sense to me. And what is the most ridiculous part of all of this is how many videos I'm seeing. I'm not an avid TikTok user. I will occasionally scroll through it, but it's not a daily thing for me at all. Most of the time, my husband's the one showing me videos, and I've laughed and I've been very impressed. And it is, a seemingly good application, and it is the most uncensored application or social media platform currently in the United States. And I know that that's, one of the things that may or may not have contributed to it being banned. But I don't think Americans understand what exactly communism is and how it can impact lives. So I just want to share one of the videos that I came across, which is just a couple who moved to Japan and, China, just are going through several of the different things that they have noted since moving there in in an interesting way. So let's go ahead and watch that.
Privileges that we had in America that we don't quite have in China. So first off, in America, we at least had the privilege of getting a credit check every time we wanted something of value, such as a car or even a simple apartment, versus in China or even Asia in general. All they want to know is if you can afford the rent. When we went to go look for an apartment, they just simply told us the fees and we paid the money for our apartment and moved in.
Okay. So I was curious after seeing this. I was like, well, we have the credit score system, which is a very, very flawed system, and no one enjoys it. But I was wondering, I was just curious. I was like, well, China has to have some kind of system, and they do. They have what's called a social credit score. And the thinking behind it is essentially, it's a very Orwellian concept. It is government control to the max. They are not only judging your financial decisions like our credit score system does, and when you pay things on time and etc. like that, but they're judging every aspect of your life. So it's a much more subjective system as well. And it really does depend on who is the one doling out the judgment and who is deciding, what is positive behavior and what's negative behavior. And this results in loss of, internet access, which I worked for an internet provider for a couple of years. And I was getting calls every single day from angry Americans that their internet was down, even if it was just for half an hour or a couple of hours. Heaven forbid they go down and they're inconvenienced in that way. Could you imagine if we were caught jaywalking, for instance, which is one of the negative behaviors according to the social credit system, and they cut your internet for a whole day? And I'm not saying that's exactly like what happens, but that is one of the potential results of negative behavior, along with fines and public shaming. They have so many cameras, and if they catch you in the act, they'll just post whatever the picture is on a massive screen for everyone to see. Tell me how that is better than our credit score system. It's not. I'll just tell you that. So, moving right along.
In America, we had the privilege of worrying about our safety. When we were in America, we at least were allowed to carry, just in case some things went left. Versus in China, people don't even carry guns here. Could you imagine living life not even having to worry about protecting yourself? That's insane.
I can definitely see her point. It would be very, very nice to not have to worry about our personal safety when going outside. Obviously, that's like human nature. No one wants to be concerned about whether, someone's going to come after them or whatever it is. However, I'm a big fan of our rights, particularly the Second Amendment, because I know that no matter what the laws say, there will be those who go against them and who break them and who do things illegally and under the table, and what the list goes on. But I think that having a law like in China preventing private citizens, from owning a gun, they have the most strict gun laws in the world. And I'm sure we're all saying, oh, well, I guess not all of us, but some of us are saying, oh, like, that's so great. Like, that would limit, like, say, mass shootings, which unfortunately is a very, very, very tragic event that has happened many times over the course of the years in the United States. However, I looked into that as well because, again, very just curious. This channel and the purpose of this channel is for obviously me to just share my opinions, but also just to gain more knowledge about the world and about how the United States is and how it functions. So I came across this site that ranks all of the countries, and it's the 2024 to 2025 statistical risk assessment for intrastate mass killings. So I was like, well, surely, the United States has to be up there. I was wrong. So it says we consider countries ranked in the top 30 to be at high risk. So let's just see where the United States is and where China is. And again, this is not to say anything against China, but I don't want them to have my information. So to me, red note is not the way to go. However, even though it is against the laws and they have the strictest gun control in the world, they're still ranked 26. So that's within the 30 that is at high risk in this analysis of mass killings. Now, the United States, excuse me, I mean, they're interchangeable, so it doesn't really make a difference, but is ranked 79. So just take a minute to think about that. Obviously, we do have gun laws, and they vary from state to state. But in my personal opinion, the more you tell someone they can't do something, the more likely they're going to want to do it. Because everyone has a rebellion inside of them. And it's something that, each of us has to battle with every day to some level. And I just think that I would much rather have the ability to choose for myself what to say and to do and to own instead of the government telling me, which is exactly what China does. They're, again, a very dystopian, Big Brother-esque type of society. And it's not something I think that Americans understand enough to do something as flippant as sharing some of their personal information. In addition to that, I think that because TikTok has resumed its service, obviously everyone should be taking a deep breath. However, I wonder how much damage has already been done, because it is so easy to manipulate an already emotional person or group of people. And so if for those Americans who joined Red Note, despite their experience to date, it is still one of our foreign adversaries' platforms, and the opposite almost completely of everything that, all the freedoms that we have here in the United States. I'm not claiming that we are the best country in any way, shape, or form. There are many countries out there that, would cater more to certain individuals. I love this country, and I think that it is a great place to live. I also have plans potentially to live in other countries if I get the chance. But that's not because I don't love America. It's because I want to experience other cultures. And so at the end of the day, we each have our, own personal decisions, but we need to realize the impact that our personal decisions can have on either our friends or family, or generally just our country in the long run. We experience so many freedoms over here that do not exist in China. And I just want to emphasize the fact that Red Note, it's not the way to go. And I don't know if this will sway many people, but I think that now that TikTok has resumed, in the United States, I think that we should all come back to, home base and not share unnecessary data with a communist country. And I think also that at the end of the day, we need to figure out how to do a better job of standing up for our rights and figuring it out in the United States. If we don't feel like we are being treated fairly, or if something is just either unconstitutional or whatever it may be, we need to come together as a community and express that, whether that be peaceful protesting or whatever else it is. But the answer is not to go to a different country's platform, especially not China's. So that is all I had to say for today. And again, I'm not an avid user of TikTok. However, I am grateful that the service was restored, whether it just be temporary or not. I think that it is a place where people were relying on getting their income from. And it is the freest, uncensored platform that we have with social media. So I'll just leave you off there and finish with one of my favorite persons, what he says all the time: don't be small in such a big world.